Topping today's news, new airports on the way for a number of family islands. The official opposition again calling for the resignation of the Minister of Works. The government defends its fiscal strategy report, and the Attorney General explains why the government is on a list of creditors of FTX. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jcn Saunders. This is your Jcn Evening News. It's a pleasure to have you join us. The Bahamas government, by way of the Ministry of Works and Utilities, signing a multi-million-dollar contract for upgrades at the Exuma International Airport. We hear more on the signing in this next report. On Thursday, the Davis administration signed a $34.2 million contract with Bahamas Hot Mix for airside upgrades at the Exuma International Airport. This project comes on the heels of Prime Minister Philip Davis announcing new airport construction and upgrades for several airports throughout the Bahamas will take priority this year. Works Minister Alfred Sears gives an outline on the work that will be undertaken at the Exuma Airport.
Security deficiencies like visual aids, lighting and marking, mobile equipment, the layout of runway, apron and taxiways impose a risk to the operation and compromises new traffic demand. The airports face challenges to meet the International Aviation Organization safety and security standards, and to respond to events related to climate change. Such events require action in order to maintain certification by the Bahamian Civil Aviation Authority, to guarantee safety for passengers and crew, and keep the operations of this vital transport mode.
Funding for this infrastructure and upgrades are being made possible through a partnership with the Inter-American Development Bank. Minister Sears says it is significant that these infrastructural improvements are being implemented at this time in Exuma's history.
My information indicates that over 7 million tourists visited the Bahamas in 2022. And the projection, I'm sure, indicate that we shall exceed that number in 2023. It is evident to me that as Exuma continues to expand its tourism product, it shall also continue to increase its visitor arrivals. The further implementation of sustainable infrastructure and an improved standard of living for the people of Exuma. Specifically, the airport infrastructure program aims to improve air transport connectivity and flow of people to and from our family islands.
Now, improvements to the air side is expected to begin within the coming months. Project Coordinator Charlene Colley assures that there will be no disruption in air services at the Exuma Airport.
We have a mandate under the Airport Infrastructure Program by the government of the Bahamas and definitely the Airport Authority that the airports must remain open and functional 100% of the time while we undergo our works. Therefore, operations are now currently sunrise to sunset, so most likely we'll be working the wee hours of the night into the morning. Whatever we open and uncover will be remedied for traffic at sunrise.
The upgrades at the Exuma International Airport and cooperation between the Ministry of Tourism, Investments and Aviation in conjunction with the Ministry of Public Works satisfies the loan agreement signed between the government and the IDB. Continuing with news regarding Family Island airports, in an effort to improve air travel to out islands, residents of North Eleuthera and Cat Island are expected to see works begin at both airports in the very near future. This much coming from Minister of Public Works and Utilities, Alfred Sears.
I can inform you that the Prime Minister has indicated that the construction and upgrade of several airports throughout the Bahamas will take priority during this year. We expect work to begin on the new Bight, Cat Island, Airport very shortly. The Grand Bahama Airport will be a PPP, and this will also commence in the very near future. The North Eleuthera Airport will require some emergency paving to ensure that it remains airworthy while waiting for a major redevelopment which is also imminent.
As for the overall layout of the North Eleuthera Airport, project coordinator Charlene Colley says it is currently in its design phase.
It's remedial works that we intend to do that will last approximately about 3 to 4 years while we're doing the major infrastructure works. Eleuthera is slated to have a new runway further to the right of the existing runway. The existing runway will convert into a parallel taxiway with several taxiways joining runway to apron. That's all under design, so second quarter of 2024 at earliest. But the remedial works will be happening in, there's a bidding process that we need to go through, so that has a certain time frame. We'll see what we can get approved. It's usually a minimum of 90 days, but we're going to try to turn that bidding process around in half the time to try to get that work done in the very near future. Very near.
Officials say the tourists and locals that travel to Cat Island and North Eleuthera will be able to use a new airport by mid-2024, as remedial work has already begun. Following the release of the government's fiscal strategy report, the FSR for 2022, Free National Movement leader Michael Pintard is once again calling for the minister with responsibility for Bahamas Power and Light, Works and Utilities Minister Alfred Sayers, to resign without delay. As the FSR was tabled by Prime Minister Philip Davis on Wednesday in the House of Assembly, the FNM says it reveals on page 59 that the recent disclosure of approximately $150 million of payment arrears of BPL represents a significant unbudgeted liability of the government. It also states to ensure continued provision of essential electrical service to the public, the government has committed to ensuring payment of the liability by the corporation. The opposition said it is horrified by this revelation. Additionally, in a statement, the opposition leader reiterates that due to the Davis administration's well-documented bungling of the Bahamas Power and Light hedge arrangement and the subsequent failure to adjust the surcharge, Bahamian taxpayers are now on the hook for some $90 million. The FNM is now demanding that the government provide a full accounting of what this $90 million represented and whether or not it represented the full cost to the taxpayers. They're asking if the $150 million liability is inclusive of the $90 million owed to Shell or something different. Mr. Pintard says the government must give a full accounting to the Bahamian people for the ongoing fiasco and that all public officials that have assisted in this disaster must face consequences of their actions. Meanwhile, in response to the official opposition's calls for the Public Works Minister to resign and their suggestion that the government's fiscal strategy report indicates the listed $150 million of payment arrears for BPL, which is listed among the government's liabilities, is largely due to the Davis administration's mishandling and rejection of the fuel hedge recommendation left in place by the Minnis administration, PLP Chairman and Minister of Foreign Affairs Fred Mitchell today refuted those claims by the FNM and a local daily.
I read the story. It said that the Bahamas was burdened with a $150 million bill due to the mishandling by the PLP of BPL's fuel surcharge strategy. It then used a quote from the government's fiscal strategy report tabled in the House on Wednesday. One was supposed to then believe that the source of this misleading headline was the government's fiscal strategy report. Well, I'd read the report, I'd reviewed the report when it was laid in the House, and I asked the Minister of Economic Affairs, Michael Halkitis, to confirm that the report was the source of false information. The truth? Nowhere in the fiscal strategy report does it say anything about the hedge fund strategy of the FNM and not using it as being responsible for the $150 million fuel bill.
Mr. Mitchell described the newspaper article as a journalistic hatchet job for the FNM. He then went on to discredit the validity of the FNM's claims that the fuel hedge would have yielded millions of dollars in savings for the power company and ultimately Bahamian people.
Let me say again these truths. The fiscal strategy report does not say that the PLP not using the FNM's BPL hedge strategy was responsible for causing the $150 million fuel bill. Such an assertion is a lie. Secondly, the basic fact is not using the F&M's fuel hedge strategy by BPL was not responsible for the $150 million fuel bill. Let's make it clear. The F&M's fuel strategy, hedge strategy, was itself a failure, period. Due to changes in the market, the breakdown of equipment because of lack of maintenance, the F&M's fuel strategy was of no use to BPL, and the Finance Ministry under the PLP did not agree with the use of the F&M fuel hedge strategy. It was ineffective. The PLP, following sound advice by the ministry, did not follow that bad strategy.
In January, a 116-page consolidated list of creditors for FTX was filed in a Delaware court of the United States and listed Prime Minister Philip Davis in his ministry and 5 other cabinet ministries as creditors to the company. In this next report, our Destiny Johnson shares what the Attorney General has to say about that list, and we get thoughts from the leader of the Bahamas Constitution Party regarding the government and the FTX debacle.
That list of FTX digital markets creditors released on January 25th and includes 5 government agencies and their ministers, including the Ministry of Finance, headed by Prime Minister Philip Davis, will not shed a negative light on the government. Attorney General Ryan Pinder says as much as he told reporters on Thursday that the list speaks to taxes and fees owed to the government.
As creditors, I would presume that those creditors were listed voluntarily by FTX themselves. The only indebtedness that I am aware of to the government with respect to the FTX matter is just some real property tax that may be owed on the properties, which we certainly will be compensated at the appropriate time with them. No, that is purely a debtor-creditor situation. There's no negative light, there's no positive light. It is a function of a liquidation proceeding, and it's nothing more and it's nothing less.
While the document does not break down the amounts owed to creditors, according to international news media, FTX owes more than $3 billion to its top 50 creditors. Now, following the release of this document, the Bahamas Constitution Party, BCP, released a statement stating that the fact that names of ministers of the government appear in any capacity when it comes to FTX contradicts the claims of Prime Minister and other cabinet ministers that the government had no involvement in the failed company and its operations. In an exclusive interview with Jcn News, the BCP servant leader Ali McIntosh is demanding that the Prime Minister address the nation on every level of involvement in the company and give specific dollar amounts regarding the claims.
That is a very big concern. As we said in another interview, if it is fees, if it is services that were rendered and to be paid for, of course, the point that it was still actually outstanding at the time of collapse is a concern. But the bigger concern is what is the claim that the government have on this company? If they had said that they had no claim, no vested interest, then that would be fine with us. But they denied that there was any claim. And now that they are on the list, what is the amount that they are claiming from this company in the Bahamas, which the global company, but the company based in the Bahamas. That's the primary concern here. How much have they invested the Bahamian people's money in this company, and what is the amount of claim?
Ms. McIntosh says in recent weeks the case of FTX and its former CEO Sam Bankman-Fried has seemingly been pushed to the back burner. She claims that the government may be trying to muffle information that would imply any wrongdoing on their part.
Both Delaware and New York, where this case is ongoing with Mr. Bankman-Fried, there is a lot of information coming out. The U.S. have determined to tighten up his bail because of the fact that he is now communicating with people trying to cover up certain information. They have extended the whole idea of talking to his family because they were advisors to him and that they may be knowledgeable about some of the assets. The Bahamian people is not losing interest. They just don't know the facts. But the facts are coming out, and I believe to some degree, the government is not allowing that information to go out and to some degree attempting to muffle it.
Chairman of the BCP, Dwayne Hyler, while stating that the party does not aim to bash or defame anyone's character, says that they are here to seek the truth on behalf of the Bahamian people. He says the BCP will hold the Attorney General to his claim that only taxes and fees are owed to ensure the Bahamians' money was not invested in FTX. In light of this, the Free National Movement FNM released a statement February 1st, 2023, calling for the establishment of a select committee on matters relating to FTX. The committee would look at our legislation, policies, interaction with the company, government officials' interactions with the company, and its official or unofficial capacity. The statement continues that this is to ensure transparency, due public insight in this international matter. The FNM asserts that without public inquiry, the country will be left to endure a credibility problem. For Jcn News, I'm Destiny Johnson.
Thanks for that report, Destiny. And finally, in this segment, a small group of members of the Bahamas Public Service Union, the BPSU, along with the union president, Kimsley Ferguson, assembled on the grounds of the Ministry of Works on John F. Kennedy Drive this morning to address challenges within the ministry. The union president says they are having varying concerns about the management of the Bahamas Beaches and Parks Authority.
There has been an ongoing situation with the Beaches and Parks Authority in conjunction with the Ministry of Works that has to do with whose staffing these may be and who has the right to be giving directives and instructions to these particular individuals. And so it has evolved to a situation where the senior manager of this particular area has been moved. We don't have an understanding or rationale as to why. The union has been quite aware of the ongoing situation, and we would have afforded the ministry an opportunity to diplomatically and amicably address the concern that they may have. Hence, it is now time that we intervene, because there is a blatant disregard for some of the persons that work at the grounds and beautification section.
The concern is that workers under the beautification section of the ministry are potentially being absorbed within the Beaches and Parks Authority without their permission.
Because the Beaches and Parks Authority has been around for a number of years. Legally, the minister, the chairman, all understand what is necessary for an authority to be deemed an approved authority. And so they cannot be absorbed into an authority that will not have in place the proper mechanisms to govern them and to ensure that the benefits and personal emoluments of these people are absorbed in the Beach and Parks Authority as opposed to the Ministry of Works.
Now, Mr. Ferguson says over 300 people are affected by this issue, and they are calling for the government to rectify the matter as soon as possible. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.